Greetings, guys. How are we doing today / tonight, depending on where you are around the world? Oh, looks like I'm finally live. I love these live feeds. They're always the first sort of awkward 10 seconds where the person doing the live feed isn't sure whether or not you're actually live. So you're going, am I here? Finally here. Take a flight. Hello from Colorado. Greetings, Colorado. I'm what? Still summer there, so it must be good weather over there. Bad echo is everyone hearing a bad echo here, or let me know. If I'm not hearing a unanimous echo, then we can continue. Isn't Texas always hot except for when it's cold? I'm guessing Texas would be kind of cold at nighttime and inland as well. So okay, I think everyone's hearing me kind of fine. Okay, so look, we'll do the usual thing at the end. We'll do like if anyone's got any questions that they want me to answer or things that we want to talk about, more than happy to talk about it. And I'll keep an eye on the chat, but I'll kind of stick to the topic at hand that is in the description, and we'll go from there. So this is just a forward warning that this is my opinion on it. I have a sort of an inside knowledge on a lot of things that go on and so forth within the industry, but it's still my opinion. Take your decision and go whichever direction you want. Either way, I know that there's going to be some people that are going to be happy with me and some people that want me to die in hell. For those people that want me to die in hell, I hope you have a really good day. Just remember this is a hobby. Go out and fly. But the reality is this is FPV. This is this wondrous hobby that we're all talking about, which is essentially a bunch of grown nerds bitching about toys in a park. So that's where we're at. But the topic today is basically, if you're not fully aware, and I'm sure if you're on here, you probably are, that Trappy's kind of lost it at FrSky for their what he considers a clone of the Crossfire, the L9R, R9, whatever it's called, the FrSky one. I can never remember the name of it. Chinese always do stupid names for stuff, and he's basically. Trappy's got a history of basically trying to squash people by force, and he's not happy with that. As far as he's concerned, that FrSky has cloned him, among many other companies that have cloned him and his intellectual property, and put a letter out basically. And he's done this a couple of times. It's not the first time. That if they stock these products to any resellers that stock those products will be put on the TBS shit list, and he won't be selling them any product. So I guess let's get down to the meat of it. Is there cloning going on? Is there not cloning on? From what and I've been deeply involved in all of this. Here's my thoughts on cloning. Everyone knows that I'm not a fan of cloning, and I will support innovators on that sort of stuff. And TBS was an innovator when it came to the Crossfire system, which I'll elaborate shortly. But cloning is kind of like for like. There's inspired by and all that sort of stuff. And like, for example, there's like a direct clone of the Alien. There's a direct clone of the Stingy. There's a direct clone of the Remix. There's a direct clone of the Reverb, which is literally just cut and paste. That's not doing good for anyone. But there's a difference between cloning and competition. And I know it's a very vague a very vague way to put this, but it's kind of like Ford coming out with a car and then Chevy making a car, and Ford going, "Hey, you made a car also. You're killing my intellectual property." It doesn't work like that, and people aren't going to put up with that, and it's never going to stick. And I think has been TBS's and Trappy's main issue through all of this, where he needs to stop acting like a child and actually concentrating on making working on better products and doing what he says TBS does well and actually innovate. Travi has a history of anyone who gets into competition with him that he classes them as a clone and copying him. So first of all, just to name a few, Trappy has claimed that the Tramp has cloned the Unify, of which they are not even remotely similar. They have some similar circuit board chips and so forth on there, which are required to be on there. So a 5.8 VTX receiver has what has called the Richwave chipset reference design. So it's a reference setup, and it's basically, if you're making a VTX for 5.8, you would be an idiot to use anything else other than the Richwave chipset. It's just that simple. There's nothing else there that is better than that. And the first people to use that really in a commercial sense was Immersion RC. So if Trappy's claiming intellectual property, then he needs to have a hard look at every single VTX for 5.8 that he has ever released, because they're doing exactly the same thing to Immersion RC. Now, Immersion RC is not bitching about that, because they know that you can't bitch about that. They found a technology and they used it. Also, TBS has complained that Immersion RC has also cloned their race tracker system, when in reality the Immersion RC started working on the racetrack system before TBS even had anything going. I know that for a fact. And the TBS system was just an open source project that TBS bought out. And there were some other ones there. Who else was it? TBS is also complaining about smart audio and all that sort of stuff, which has already been proven by Joshua Bardwell that you can't lock that shit down. It's not possible to lock it down. And let's put this in a different light. So if Trappy was going to do that, imagine if Felix locked down One Shot and D Shot and so forth, which he could have tried to do the way that TBS has done, but instead, for the good of the community, to give them a protocol that clearly works better than everything else, he put it out there. Because One Shot, I remember he was starting to do that, and people were starting to like dissect it, and they weren't doing a proper job. And he's going, well, look, I'm going to give them the codes that they can actually do it properly, so everyone's using the same thing. So giving out to the community for something that you're not going to make money on anyway. So Trappy has a history of complaining about other companies copying him and cloning him and taking his intellectual property, when it's just not the case. And I think the thing is that the way that he's reacting now is every time something like that happens, he puts resellers on the shit list if they sell the other products. Now, that may have worked to a certain degree when he's been going up against small companies, but now he's come up against FrSky, which is a really big company, and they're like, you know what, bring it on. And I know that those two have been battling for a while. So you may look at FrSky and they've gone, well, they've bought out a dipole antenna that looks like the Immortal T, and that's a fuck you to Trappy. Well, Trappy's done plenty of fuck yous to them. So this is these two guys battling and playing and doing business. So let's look at the Crossfire, and let's look at the R9, the long range system from FrSky. So first of all, this is where we need to talk about TBS, and we need to give them credit. So what TBS did was they, just like Immersion RC, they found a new chipset. Immersion RC was using the Richwave chipset for the 5.8. TBS found the LoRa chipset, which has a lot of benefits. It's a new chipset, and when I say TBS found it, TBS didn't. TBS paid another company that's based in Switzerland to develop the Crossfire system. Doesn't really matter, but I think that needs to be pointed out that TBS didn't develop. They paid someone else to do it. So this company got the LoRa chip system, put it, and I'm not going to go into the technicals of it. A lot of it goes over my head, but essentially the LoRa chipset that the Crossfire uses, it's a new thing, and there are so many cool features that it does so much better than older designs. So what you've got now is you've got a new chipset that, to TBS's credit, they were the first ones to bring out. But any manufacturer who is doing any kind of transmission system like this would be stupid to use anything else other than the LoRa system. It's that simple. Now, TBS doesn't have a patent on that. They don't own that chipset. They don't decide who gets to use it. And just like Ford, who they put in the internal combustion engine in the Model T, then Chevy went and did the same thing, because you would be stupid not to do the same thing. So FrSky bought out a 900 megahertz system because they saw a possible competition in the market, and they used the LoRa chipset because they would be stupid to use anything else. They developed their own firmware, and remember, it's not so much the hardware, it's the firmware. That's where the gold is. That's because that's the shit that like anyone can go and copy a PCB. It's not that hard, and you can copy a PCB and make it look slightly different and still have it working. The firmware is the secret sauce, and that's what you keep secret. So FrSky's had to develop their own firmware. So while it's using the same hardware, it's using different firmware, and they're using a chipset that everyone would use. So, for example, Immersion RC also uses the LoRa chipset in the prototype 433 Ghost system that they were developing a while ago, because it's the right thing to use, and you're an idiot if you don't use it. So just because you use the same chipset doesn't mean you're a cloner and you're not stealing intellectual property. You're just using the right hardware for the job. And of course, the way that Trappy and TBS reacts is they get online and they bash the shit out of those people, and they try to stab them in the back, and they try to fuck with them as much as they can, and they try to tarnish their name. And then Trappy goes over there with a baseball bat and then goes, "Oh, I'm going to manhandle you until I get my way." The difference is FrSky is big enough that they're like, "Fuck you, no, we're not going to do that." So after Trappy and TBS acts like complete dicks for no reason whatsoever, rather than just concentrating on just making a better product, they waste time on blurring all this shit out. That's when FrSky goes, "You know what? Screw you. You're having a go at us and we're not doing anything wrong. So let's make your life hard." So then they make it so that things like you've got to change the baud rate in the X9D, and the QX7 doesn't natively accept the Crossfire without modifications and all that sort of stuff. And once again, you might go, "Well, that's a bit mean of them," but I mean, hey, if a guy punches you, a lot of the times you're going to punch back. That's the way that it happens. If you want to stop it, the guy initially needs to just stop fucking punching you. So this is their reaction to Trappy being a dick to them, and they're within their rights to do that. They're not doing anything illegal. So of course now Trappy gets the shits because his product that he claims is no one can even go close to and touch. Now he's pissed off because now his stuff doesn't natively fit in their gear because they're a reaction for them. So then he gets angry and he starts ranting even more. And then that's when they go, "Okay, cool. Well, we're going to do products that are similar to yours." And they're not clones. Here's the problem. What is your definition of clone? It's hard. So you could say, okay, the Immortal T and the FrSky one are very, very similar. Yeah, they are. But let's face it, it's a fucking dipole antenna. How different can you make it? There's not much more difference than you can do. Now, I can clearly see that what FrSky has done is they've gone and made it awfully similar as a fuck you to Trappy. That's their game on, we're playing with you. But I mean, a dipole is a dipole. You don't see people bitching about whip antennas on regular 2.4 transmitters. It's like, "Oh, you cloned my dipole." It's a stick. There's not much that you can do there. And as for the receiver, people saying it's a complete and utter copy. Have a close look at the receiver. You'll find that the PCB layout is actually different. And the people that have actually looked at the processor have seen that it's a different processor. Sure, the pin layout for the pinout layout for the little pins come out are the same, but you got to remember they're the standard pins for servo plugs, so they're going to be a certain distance apart. And why wouldn't they do it the same? Why wouldn't another company do it the same so that you guys can have exactly the same install? Imagine you've got a flight controller or whatever where you simply just slide this receiver on. Now you've got all these different choices of receivers that you can do. I mean, I thought what we really wanted was to have stuff that fit together that were different products. So everyone's talking about compatibility. This is compatibility here. It's not cloning. The PCB is different. Have a look at the pictures, guys. So yeah, so I can see why Trappy is a little bit pissed off about these latest product launches. But if you look through the history of it, that is a launch by FrSky that's a fuck you to Trappy because he did a fuck you to them because they did a fuck you to him, and it's all just going along. And what Trappy does is he gets up on his high horse and goes, you know what, cool, I'm going to put you on the shit list. He doesn't try and hurt the manufacturer. He doesn't try to educate the customer. He hurts the reseller. The reseller, the ones that are trying to help us, the ones that are the bread and butter of us to help us supply stuff. And that's not fucking right. Now, I don't know if you're ever going to listen to this, Trappy. Like, I tried talking to you a while back and you didn't get back to me. That's fine. Look, I'd still love to talk to you and hash things out and level things out. That'd be great. But I got to tell you this. It's a simple fact of life. If you make someone choose between you and them, 90% of the time you're going to lose. And the public reaction shows that. Now, I don't mind. Get pissed off at people who are buying products that you think are cloning. Have a go at them. Like, just say, I don't respect people that buy those products. Don't have a problem with that. That's your opinion. You're entitled to that opinion. But what you got to do is educate the public on the way that you see things, and then let them decide. Because if you educate the public, whichever way you want to do, if you want to be an asshole, like I'm pretty adamant about cloning and against it, and people hate me for that sort of stuff. But I educate them so that they understand the situation. Because here's the situation: your customer base that are going to be buying these things, there is a certain percentage of people that don't give a fuck about your morals. They don't care. They're going to buy the cheapest object or whatever, and they don't care. They're going to go and buy that. There's no way that you're ever going to win those people over. So don't even try. All you can do is arm them with the facts and the education. Some of them might turn. They might go, I didn't realize that. No, I'll go this way. And then you've got the people in the middle that might go either way. If you educate them, they're more likely to go your way. And then you've got your fanboys, which are always going to buy your products regardless of what's going on. The problem is, if you act like a fucking asshole and you prevent suppliers from giving people a choice, you're not only going to lose the people that you were always going to lose, but you're going to lose most of the people that are in the middle, because they were there, they were chopping sides. And they haven't been told the facts, and they're just like, hey, this guy's basically packing up his shit and going home. So you're going to lose that even more. That's the way that it works. They're kind of tactics. We don't need it. So if TBS is as innovative as it keeps on saying, and TBS has done a couple of innovations, like are these other big companies out there. They're no more innovative than the other companies out there. Let's put that the way that it is. If they say they're the innovative ones, get out there and innovate. The one person that I admire the most is Felix from Flyduino, the guy behind KISS. He stays out of the public eye and he doesn't talk much at all. And it's very interesting talking to him. His thoughts are very simple. He goes, the only way that I can stay relevant with my products is to innovate and do new stuff. He goes, time and time again, I will make a new product or I will bring out a new protocol. It'll get out there in the open. Then the rest of the Chinese manufacturers and so forth will lap that up, and then they will catch up. Because the only way that I can stay relevant is to invent the next thing. So while they're catching up, I'm jumping over to the next thing. So I'm always the next step ahead of them. So if that's the way that you truly feel, Trappy, and I think you're starting to get a distinct feeling from the response of your letter to the resellers, that a lot of people disagree with you. But if that's the way that you feel, then get out there and innovate, because that's the only way that you can survive. Because denying people a choice, or attempting to deny people a choice, is just going to blow up in your face, and your business is going to get harder. So yeah, and if I haven't actually watched it, but I'm sure it'll be a good one. If you guys want to compare the R9 to the Crossfire, I did see there was a video that Joshua Bardwell did a comparison between the two. I already know enough to know my thoughts on it, but I'm not even going to share that. But if you want to know a bit between the two, go over and have a look at Joshua Bardwell's one. And as far as morals and that sort of stuff, if you're a TBS fanboy and you truly believe that what TBS is doing is a good thing, then support them. Support their, like, you don't need to run around and make social media go absolutely nuts and have all this big war. Support them by buying their products and using them, and showing by force of money. Now, if you don't agree with it, show your other direction. So people can fight on Facebook and do all this dirty talk on stuff. At the end of the day, money talks. People will decide with their wallet which way they're going to go, and the big problem is this community is very budget based. So if you've got an extremely expensive product that's far more expensive than others, then you're going to struggle against everyone else, because the majority is going to go for the cheaper product. So you need to have a reason to go there. And if you look at all of these like boutique frames that are out there, or say Kearslance or stuff, they have certain reasons why people go to it. But they have those reasons, and TBS is no different. They have boutique products, so you got to bring them in there. But being a 6-year-old child like that is a surefire way of pissing the majority of the people off, except for your core fanboy base, which will follow you no matter what. And that's not enough to stay continually relevant. Let's go through some questions. J163 Final Gliders, there seems to be a bit of a beef between you and Trappy. Can you give those of us who don't know some of your perspective on the background of that? Look, I think I've always been on the outside because I'm an immersion RC fanboy, not a TBS fanboy. But I've been friendly with Trappy for quite a while. I'll just be really simple. I started distancing myself there, and like I don't have a beef with Trappy anymore. I don't really have a stake in the FPV game anymore. I left that because it's not worth it. It's people rolling around in shit, fighting for loose change. Not for me. I want to go and do something real with my life. My issue with Trappy has always been the way that he puts down other companies because he thinks that they're copying him, which is basically never the case. The only time that I've ever seen a TBS copy that has been actually properly cloned was when there was it Crazy Pony or whatever, cloned both the Spironet and the Triumph antenna, and they were one-to-one clones, including the packaging and all that sort of stuff. And I will backtrack 100% for that kind of thing. But you can't get shitty for someone who is in competition with you, making their own products in a similar line, and call it a clone when it's not. So that's my problem, has always been my problem with Trappy, the way that he goes off, and instead of just ranting, doing his usual Stone Trappy rant and then going off, he goes out of his way to underhandedly stab other companies in the back and put them down and so forth constantly. And I've seen what the behind the scenes stuff. It's not nice. Trappy, you're the face of a big company. Put your head down, your bum up, and work on cool shit. That's where my beef is. As for the TBS receivers and that sort of stuff being too expensive, I'm not going to comment too harshly on that. Maybe they are a little bit expensive, maybe they aren't. I don't know. But here's a simple fact: TBS had to put in a lot of R&D for the Crossfire to get it where it is. They were the first to do it. I'm not saying that FrSky hasn't put effort into their R9 setup, but FrSky can come along and go, oh, they use the LoRa chip. That's really good. They can do that sort of stuff. So they make a lot of things a lot easier. And FrSky and any preceding companies can come along and learn from their mistakes if they're smart enough. No different to Chevy coming along and looking the Model T forward and going, well, we're not going to do that because look how many of those axles broke and so forth. That's not copying. That's learning from other people, learning from other companies on what they do well and what they don't do well. That's smart business practice. But if you're the first to do something, then if you're doing something new, it takes a while for R&D. It costs a lot of money to do that. You're not making any money while you're doing all that R&D. It takes a long time to do, so you've got to recoup that costs. So that means that the price of the product has got to go up a reasonable amount so that you can recoup that product, that price, but also put money in the bank for the next product that you're going to do R&D on. That's why the price is higher. Now, there becomes the point in time where you've recouped those costs and you've put money back in the bank. Maybe you can bring the price down because also now you have competitors out there that are nipping at your heels because they've caught up to the thing that you've done. And that's when you bring the price down. Do you remember when the Alien was $150? Well, the Alien was $150 because that was what it was going to cost with the forecast of the sales in the future. It's now cheaper than that because they were able to go, okay, cool, we've recouped our costs. We've been able to build our business up to go to the next level so we can bring the costs down because other manufacturers came along and made very similar frames to the Alien that were inspired by the Alien, and they caught up to them and they're nipping at the heels. So now, and they also made it cheaper. So now Impulse has to bring the price down to be competitive. That's how it works. Yeah. Bruce XJet just said Ford and Ferrari both make good cars and they're both successful because they address different markets. I see the same thing here. Yeah. The FrSky one is looking like it's much more of a budget system. It's cheaper, but it also doesn't have as many features as Crossfire, where Crossfire is the full-on system. It has everything, but you've got to price to market that. So anyone who's saying, I'm not going to buy a Crossfire until it's the same price as the FrSky version is kidding themselves because the Crossfire does have more features. It's that simple. Chad, your chat is blowing up. Hey. Yeah, like Team Black Sheep, you said that's fair. Vote with your wallet for the future of the industry. You reap what you sow. Good to see you on here, Team Black Sheep. I don't know if it's you, Trappy, or someone else, but I hope that you understand that I'm saying this in a non-trolling. This is from the heart, and if you're there, Trappy, get in contact with me, man. I'd love to have a talk with you. I'm not trying to do this to cause more shit and lots of stuff. I know I called it hype and drama, but there's always fucking drama. But yeah. Vote with your wallet. That's the way that the customers are actually going to vote. They're always going to vote with their wallet. And I think a lot of the fighting on Facebook and that sort of stuff, which we've all been involved in, is kind of inconsequential. Yeah, JT163 said, one reason to like TBS is that you can go on TBS Lounge and ask the dev engineers of their products a question and usually get an answer within an hour or two. Awesome. Well, I can't because I've been banned from there and Trappy's blocked me, so I can't. But yeah, this is one of the things that you have to, with boutique companies, and we've got boutique companies, so I would class like TBS and Immersion RC, Impulse RC, Armatan, all that sort of stuff. They're boutique companies, so you're going to pay a little bit more. But what you're getting is customer service, and you're getting you're getting a face to talk to, and that's very important. And a number of people have said it, and it's rightly so, that let's see how much support you're going to get from FrSky, which is not much. That there needs to be need to give credit there with that kind of thing. But the question is whether or not that's important to you. Do you want to pay extra and have customer support if you need it, or are you manly enough that you can just deal with it yourself? That's for the person to decide. Apart from latency, does 900 megahertz offer anything other than narrow band? I don't really want to go to the latency thing because I think that it's still a bit of a hot topic. Uh, there are other systems out there that are like close to it, and I think that the difference between say S-Bus and Crossfire, I've tried it and it's so tiny that, I mean, well, it's up to the person. Some people thought the difference between PPM and S-Bus was not much, but I don't want to get into that because that's personal opinion. Is it enough for you to use it? Great, use it. If not, go for it. Does 900 megahertz offer anything other than narrow band? This is an interesting one here where we're not really talking about particular products, we're talking about frequencies. And I get this a lot, especially since Crossfire has become a bit more popular in long range flying. They're going, like, which is the best frequency? There is no best frequency, and you need to decide what is the best frequency for the situation that you're in. Now, for me personally, with my experience, in a lot, in not all countries, but for example, here in Australia and definitely over in Ukraine, oh no, other way over in Ukraine, sorry, that there are times that, like, a lot of the times I would actually prefer 2.4 in the city, because you look at 5.8, 2.4, 900, 868, whatever, they're all highly used bands, and you start getting down into like the 900 megahertz, the bandwidth is a lot smaller, but also the signals that are being put out go a lot further. So you're getting a lot more noise and so forth on 900. There is the possibility for it. And of all the problems that I've seen people have around me with Crossfire, it's been around cities. So for me personally, I trust 2.4 more than I trust 900 in a city. Now, if I was going to choose a system, I'd probably go for 433 because every city is different, but technically 433 would actually be a fairly quiet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but and happy to read there if there's a reason for it. But from my investigations, 433 should technically be probably the quietest band out of a lot of them in the city. So if you're in the city, use 433. If you don't want to use 433, then 2.4 is best, and then 900 is probably the least usable one out of that. When you start going out into the countryside where the noise floor is decidedly lower, then the choice becomes easier, because of course you're not having all these interference problems. So of course you're going to have 2.4, which is the simplest because it has the radio. It's in all radios. Then you've got 900, which goes a little bit further and has all these cool features. But then you've got 433 that goes even further again. So it really depends on how far you want to go. Now, you could probably argue that with the mini quads that we fly, they don't go far enough to really get out of the range of 900. But you get into situations where you go slightly by a hill or something like that. It's just like with 2.4, where with 900 you may not have lost it with 433 versus 900. But all three of them work. It depends on the way that you want to go. And there's not really a bad situation. You just got to understand it. So for example, 900, you're going to have slightly smaller antennas, but you've got to have more power to go further than 433. 433, you're going to have bigger antennas, but you can go further with less power. But then there's other things to look at, where 433 you will get electrical noise from some cameras, which may affect the noise floor of 433. So in that situation, 433 might be worse, but it really depends on the quad setup and the systems that you use. And then of course you've got 900, where like the laws and regulations kind of change around the world, and some places it's a little bit iffy as to whether or not you can use it. But 433, you've got to have a ham license. So there is no perfect frequency. There is no perfect setup. there is the setup that suits you best for what you're trying to achieve. And anyone who asks that question, I think, needs to research the positives and negatives for all of these. And there are positives and negatives for all of these, and then work out which is for you. Put your fanboy side down and just choose what works for you. They're 2.4, 900 with Crossfire, or FrSky 433. They all work. They've all got their uses. So yeah. Garrett Johnson, but what is the latency of the 433 system? It's the latency of the frequency doesn't matter. It's the protocol that they use. So you could get, for example, the Crossfire. If you're all hyped up about the low latency of the Crossfire system, that could be done on a 433 system as well. And all these different systems have all these different things. So most common is S-Bus out there. If you wanted me to answer that in a general way, then it would be S-Bus versus the Crossfire system and so forth. But there are other systems out there. All right, I'm just going back here through Team Black Sheep. I can't really go back too far. So you're like, when it is repeatedly happening on a scale that is designed to attack a company and destroy its product, again, which in isolation is fair. But when you use our innovations, designs, and ideas to combat our product while making your own products incompatible, blocking us from races, you name it. I don't know if you were earlier in TBS, but I did point out that looking from someone who's looking on the sidelines, I'm watching you throw punches as well as FrSky throwing punches. So when they go and make when they go and do that, that's an answer that's their punch back to you from you punching them. So you made the whole LoRa system, lots of stuff, LoRa chipset with the Crossfire, which was great. But there's no way that you can possibly claim someone else doing up a system using that chipset and doing a similar sort of thing is copying you, because if you're claiming that, then that meant that you copied Immersion RC with the next the Richwave chipset whenever you made VTXs. It's you're innovative because you found something new and you used it, and you need to be congratulated for that. But you can't stop other people from using similar hardware to go along and do their own thing. So when they do that, and then you get all up in arms and you do your usual rant online and try to put down FrSky as a company, they're going to go, okay, well, if you want to play that game, we can play that game. And they go around and they do quite what they're capable of doing, make your product not still compatible, but not so compatible with their product. So you might not like it, but that was their fuck you back at your fuck you. And then you do another fuck you to them, and then they do another fuck you to you. And the cycle continues until we get to this point, and someone loses. Can FrSky make the TBS Crossfire not compatible to punch back? Well, I think they've already kind of done that, where they've made it it's compatible, but it's not easy, like it's not plug and play. You got to change things and so forth. I don't know whether or not they could, but it's Team Black Sheep. You could probably um, you could probably answer this. I don't know whether or not they could make it incompatible, except for changing the OpenTX firmware, which is open source, which would never happen. So I don't think that that would ever happen. I guess it really depends on how far they want to take this. But at some point in time, someone's got to walk away and just go, enough is enough. Well, anyway, guys, if you got any questions in there, I'm just reading through the comments on some stuff. I think I've said my thing. I've been reading some of the comments. I don't know if you guys hate me or love me or anything like this sort of stuff, but I thought I'd give you a bit of background info there from someone that some might consider to be one-sided against TBS. But yeah, um, it yeah. At the end of the day, it's not good if someone forces you to choose. That's not going to go down well. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that's you there, Trappy. Um, but yeah, I would highly reconsider what you're doing there, because I think you've seen it's that people are not reacting to it very well. And if you make someone choose, most of the time you're going to lose. And this kind of setup may have worked for the smaller companies, but FrSky is a bit bigger and they're more than willing to play ball. Like the whole Immortal T clone thing, like I said before, it's a dipole antenna. There's only so much you can do to make it different. Yes, I agree, it's very similar and it's kind of a dick move, but it's a dick move because you've also done dick moves. It's a reply to your dick move. And this is what happens. Like in the schoolyard, eventually the teacher comes along, rips the two kids apart and says, enough, both of you go and sit in the corner and think about what you're doing. Have they considered updating the Vendetta to modern motors and 6S? I don't know. You'd have to. TBS is in here. They'll probably be able to answer that. Chad, you've been hanging out in the US too long. I'm back in Australia and I'm loving how relaxing it is. We just want everyone on thick Earth to love each other and buy quads. The shit show is real. Yep. We're the FPV industry. We need some kind of like drama to get things going. Thanks, Boots and Shoes. One bad FPV. Of course, I will go to the prom with you. Fight to the death. Whichever company banks up first loses. Well, it's happening, guys. When you're wasting so much time with all this bitching and fighting and doing business moves to fuck other people over, you're not working on the core values of your company, which is to make cool shit for your customers. That's why I've got to say I have always respected Impulse RC, because they've stayed out of the shit. They're like, I'm not replying to that, just making stuff. And it's hard to do because I haven't been able to do it. I'm just as guilty as going out there and bitching on that sort of stuff. But yeah, we need to learn to stop doing this. And I think the core thing that needs to stop, and as being someone who's done the whole ranting thing in the past myself, I can understand, but I can also see, Trappy, you need to stop with these big rants. You need to stop threatening other people and other companies, and you've got to stop throwing shit. Okay, you can go out there and you can say, look, we're really disappointed that they did that. We put a lot of effort into that. It's a pity, but yeah, you're not sitting there going talking to a company. You're going there with fists, and the reply is fists back again. Yep, time for a price war. Chad, why didn't you reach out and ask Trappy to join you on this live feed to defend himself? I see he's here typing away while you just rant. Why not bring him on to discuss? Sam Hell, pretty simple, because Trappy's blocked me on Facebook. I'm not allowed on any of his Facebook pages, and I have reached out to him on Skype to bury the hatchet and talk to him, and not get and anything else. I just want to bury the hatchet and it never happened. So the ball has been in Trappy's court, and if he wants to talk to me, great. And if you think that this is a rant all against TBS, then that's okay. That's fine for your opinion. But I would suggest you go and have a look at general public opinion of TBS's stance to see which way people are actually turning for this. Holy shit, MC Creations, $5. What the hell? Thanks, man. I didn't even know that I had that set up and you could do that. Thanks, man. I wasn't asking for. Wow, it's the first someone's giving me money. Okay, I appreciate that, man. I really do. Oh, good. Final Glide, yeah, Team Black Sheep said, no hatchet here, no worries. Look, Trappy, please contact me through Skype. I think it's best that we just talk online first because we haven't talked in a while and we had a big beef on sort of stuff. I know I spoke to you. I left it all quiet because I figured the ball was in your court and you would contact me. But dude, I would love to just chat with you and get my weight off my shoulders. I'm not expecting an apology from you. I know that we've had a beef, and I just want to admit my fault in the side of things. So I would love to do that, even if it's like a 30-second things and then you hang up on me. I'm fine with that. And please don't let what I'm saying here affect that. This is my opinion, and I'm not trying to fucking put this down in any way. This needs to get out here, and I think this side of the story needs to get out as well. And I respect your side of the opinion, your side of the story, and so forth. But I think this fight, the community's not big enough for this shit. We need to stop it. And I think if you were a bit more politically correct with how you portrayed yourself, I know you're a rebel. I'm a rebel too. But a face of a company that big, if you were a bit more like some of these other company faces, I think your support would be much bigger. The failure of support as a whole, I think, has to do with the grumpy attitude, which never works well. Trust me, ask me how I know. And so the best way to improving things is to admit where you're doing things wrong. And I have gone through a lot of that. I think you need to too. But aside from that, I'm starting to rant here. I'd love to chat anyway. But while I was doing that, holy shit. Wombat, 10, bloody hell, guys. You don't need to do this. I can afford to eat tonight. And Team Black Sheep, seriously, Trappy, hugs. If we ever get a chance, if we're in the same part of the world, I want to catch up. I want to buy you a drink. We can pat one another in the back and just go, it's been a wild fucking ride. I'm not going to stop with my opinions, and I know you're not going to stop with yours. That's just the way that it is. We can disagree and still appreciate one another. And thank you for the smiley face, mostly. Thank you. And Jaden, bloody hell, stop it, guys. Yeah, I get to be the big spoon. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, look, the way that I'm seeing this, and I've been trying to be right off to one side because I've really got out of all this ball game because I just can't. It's not worth trying to fight for a piece of the puzzle. Is that I've seen FrSky do something that is okay. We're going to do something similar because we see well. Let's say Timecop invented the first flight controller. Now there's other companies out there that are making flight controllers. They're not exactly the same flight controller, but they use the same they use the same STM32 chip and so forth and that sort of stuff. They're not copying, they're just doing other things. It's competition. And I know, Trappy, you didn't like that. I disagree with your thoughts, but I really do see their reaction as a reaction to your reaction. I saw them do that. I saw a fuck you from you. So I saw there a fuck you from them, and then I saw another fuck you from you, and it's tit for tat. And someone's got to step in and go, enough. I don't know who that is, but take it from me. The only way that you can resolve this is, first of all, to sit down and see your faults and accept your faults, and then you can go, okay, cool. I was partly responsible for this, but these bastards have got some things to answer for as well. So hug and let it go for a while. Yep. MC Creations. Basically, I don't care. I have nothing against anyone. I'm going to keep flying, going to keep buying FrSky stuff and TBS stuff too, whenever I have a chance. Yes, love it. They're both good products. They're both doing some interesting things. And sometimes they're in competition, sometimes they aren't. Love it. So I got a challenge for you guys. Share the love. And this may sound sarcastic, but what I want to see is, I want to see you guys posting pictures. I want to see pictures of FrSky radios with crossfires in them, and I want to see TBS Tango radios with R9 modules in them. And like, no hate, love it all. That's what I want to see you guys do. And let's be real here. In TBS's side, the TBS has a more wholesome product. There's more to it, so it's a better product. There's more to it. If that's what you want, that's great. But you've also got a budget product. I think Bruce said that as well. Wait, the Tango is incompatible with the R9. Hang on, you're not being a hypocrite now, here, are you, Trappy? I do need to fly more. I have been enjoying not flying for a while, I've got to be honest. But I've been going and flying with my buddies, no cameras, no recording, and just enjoying flying the way that we did originally, before I even had a GoPro. And I've been really enjoying that. So I'll get back to flying and making videos soon enough. Yeah. Chris Quad Def PV said it best. I think Team Black Sheep, we have gained some respect back. Well, I think a fair bit of respect back reading your comments here. No more public blow ups now, pretty please. Just let your product do the talking, as it's ahead of the game. There you go. If you come out of the south coast of New South Wales and fly sometime, love to if I ever get down that way. Yeah, Alex, I can't deal with the OSD. There's too many numbers. And on emails, Chad recently built a reverb. Love it. Good to hear. I'm glad you're enjoying it, mate. Tony Briz, Crossfire is better than R9. Well, I guess that's public. That's down to personal opinion. There are some people that it depends on what's important to you. R9 is cheaper. Sometimes price is more important. So if it works for you, great. That's what we want to see. Team Black Sheep. The email was taken a bit out of proportion, to be honest. It was intended to dealers. It was intended to dealers, and they have not had any negative reactions. In fact, they have encouraged us to expand on the ban. I would only say this. I'm going to say Trappy because I'm assuming it's Trappy. I don't know. It's the customers that do the talking because they're the ones that are spending the money. So at the end of the day, the resellers are going to stock what the customers want, not what you want. So you need to be very careful of that. You don't own that monopoly. That's in fact illegal in most Western countries. So you need to listen to the customer base, and because they're the important ones. By all means, educate them, but it's their money and they will spend it on what they want to spend it on. And as for the email is taken by proportion, to be honest, it was intended to dealers only. Well, the problem with like secret emails is they get out, and if people don't like what you're saying in secret, it's going to tarnish. It's going to tarnish you. So you need to be very careful about what you put out there. Really hot. 9.99. Thanks, man. I'm honestly, I wasn't expecting this. I didn't even know you could do it, and I appreciate it. So, is this the point in time where I've got to start playing computer games and doing live feeds, and you guys just throw money at me for playing a car racing sim or something? I don't take money like this very well. Sorry. No worries, Team Black Sheep or Trappy. Like I said, please contact me in private. Give me a buzz on Skype. I'd love to chat. I know you're busy. I'll let you take the time to do that. Yeah, Tall Fox FPV said psychologically, when given an ultimatum, they end up not taking to the person who gave it to them very well. And I totally agree with that. When people make me choose between something, they're usually the ones that lose. And I think it's just human nature. Want to come and be a guest on the UFDA shit show next Tuesday? That sounds like a fun, fun thing. So yeah, be more than happy to contact me. Give me a private message, and I'd be more than happy to. I don't fly long range because I'm chubby and I don't like walking far. All this money, you can now get a free return flight to Adelaide next week for FPV and World Cup at Adelaide show. That's true, but I can't afford to eat. Thank you, Dangerous FPV. I appreciate it. $4.20. I love it. Thank you. I never thought you guys would be appreciative of me just sitting there talking about shit and so forth. Yeah, I think Team Black Sheep probably gets the message, or the guys that are just saying they're just bitching and whinging and so forth. I get that. I think what both sides need to be aware that there needs to be some tact here. So while I'm saying, yeah, Trappy probably needs to stop with the ranting, then it needs to be, we on the other side, we probably need to be a little bit more restrained in the way that we reply, because we only make things worse. And look, I've been guilty plenty of times. So yeah, it's a two-way street here. So I think TBS gets that kind of opinion. And if TBS tries to defend themselves, sure, then go ahead and reply. But we don't need to keep on sitting there pounding them with lots of sort of stuff. Yeah. Johnny Van FPV, final glows. Who's the one that did wrong in your eyes, Chad? TBS or FrSky? Who was the bad guy? I don't really want to say bad guy, because I see a lot of it as business, and I guess at what point? Because like if FrSky brought out an aerial, an antenna that was very similar to the Immortal T, and two things granted. First of all, it's a dipole. There's not much you can do. But second of all, they didn't have to make it look so similar. And I know it was a fuck you, but I think what I got before, I don't know if you're listening early, is what I saw was um, FrSky bringing out a product to be in competition with TBS, TBS going fuck you and kicking up a storm. So FrSky responding by making things a bit more incompatible, and then TBS kicking up a storm, going fuck you, and then FrSky doing this. So it was a tit for tat. The only thing that I would say is if TBS didn't go nuts the first time, probably none of this would happen. If they just had laid low, put their head down, and got stuck into making stuff, then it probably never would have happened. So it's a result of that. But it's like it's the whole schoolyard thing until they get pulled apart. The donations are there to lay fiber connections to your house. Yeah. I think in 2019-ish, they might upgrade the internet here. I've heard that, but I probably won't even be living there by then. I can offer you a bed in Adelaide and feed you if you want. Also, straight away from the city councils. I'd love to come down to Adelaide, but unfortunately, I've got some things going on around it at that point in time. But yeah, anytime I can go out and just hang out with cool people in the FPV scene, I'd love to. That's my favorite thing. I even don't fly that much. I just love just shooting the shit and having fun with people. Dirt bikes down under. Come on, Chad. You're too smart to think that has anything to do with the antenna. Well, please explain to me what it does have to do with. I don't know if you listened to the full thing, the history rundown of it. Let me know. 4G tethered phone give you better internet you have now. A little bit better, but I'm on like 1 bar 4G where I am, and that's through Telstra. It's just I'm an internet hole. Holy shit! What the hell? Not a Q, dude. Thank you. UDFK crew, Vic FPV. What the hell, guys? Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Finally get to say that I invited Chad a drink. Greetings from Mexico City. If I'm ever in Mexico City, be more than happy to have a drink with you, dude. And Vic FPV, you keep ripping it, dude. You're always ripping it. Love your videos. Good stuff. When Mark comes to visit his parents next in Sydney and chance you come too, he's interested. Yeah, I was going to go down for the last time, but had some personal dramas going on, so I couldn't. Um, hopefully next time. I don't get into Sydney enough. Do 4FPV. Thank you. I appreciate it. And Max Packets. I love it. Max Packets. I love it. Good name. Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. And look, if you've got any questions, just ask them. I'm more than happy to answer. I'm only here because I'm shooting the shit with you guys. This live stream has officially become profitable. Yes, yeah. Come back in 20 minutes. I'll have my shirt off doing kind of weird things for everyone. Please, Jed, don't forget about friends when you get rich. Yep. I'm going out to buy my first Ferrari now. Correct, Bruce. Australia's internet is crap. This place is thick. Chris Quad, get yourself a cider. Those shooting shots are great. Oh yeah, I gotta get my. I don't have a cider here currently, but I will. Thanks, man. I'll go and buy. I'll go and buy a cider. Appreciate it. All right. So, what do we want to talk about? Let's think about it. Let's think about a subject because I don't want to sit here and just mindlessly get money from you guys while I'm not actually being useful to you guys. So, did you do any flying with Steel? Are you planning on going to his onto his podcast anytime soon? I did some flying with Steel on a previous trip over to LA. You might have seen the social media post. It was good catching up with him. He's doing really good. I actually mentioned to him that we should do some podcast stuff with him. So um, yeah, send him a message. Say, hey, you should get chat on it, and tell him that I'm more than happy to go on. I'll contact him. Like I don't want to jump in on his podcast without him actually wanting me there. I always wait for people to invite me. So yeah, more than happy to go on there. So long as they're just talking shit, that's my favorite. Hey Six, I'm doing good. I'm doing good, my friend. Yeah, you go and sleep. Latency free HD video. Um, there's some interesting things coming that I was told about last night. Should be interesting. It's not all good, but why is Chad so wholesome? Is the topic. I can't answer that. Emax's quality. Let's talk about Emax's shitty quality. Um, is it a big deal? I haven't really heard of. Like, there's some people that are happy with it, and some people that aren't. I find generally when there is a proper QC issue that it's like very widespread. Generally speaking, it's either a QC issue or it's a new technology or a new build technique that people don't understand and have problems with. The Wolf PDB fits on the Chameleon titanium. That's correct. I believe it does. I've seen a couple of people put on there, and I don't think you really need to mod it at all, which is good. Yes, the old Rotor Ride episodes with you still always seem like they were the best episodes. Yeah, I had a good time. Me and Steele always had a really good dynamic, and we both knew that. We both knew hanging around, even when we weren't necessarily always getting along. Like I knew how to push his buttons and get him cranky. And usually when he was cranky, that's when he was the most entertaining because he'd sort of like pout and shit like that. But they were good times. What do you think of the 3-inch scene? You've flown any of the smaller quads. I think the 3-inch scene is actually kind of interesting, where I never really did get 4-inch quads because they didn't carry a GoPro well, but they weren't really that much of a difference to 5-inch quads. But proper designed 3-inch quads with the actual proper 3-inch gear is interesting because you're getting below the 250-gram mark, so you're out of regulation. And also here in Australia, if you're very careful, you can get a 3-inch quad down to, you might need to drop down to 2-inch, something like that, but you can get down to under 100 grams, which is our limit here in Australia. And I think we're probably going to see more and more of that with the regulation that's coming in. And the regulation is the one thing that scares me the most because I don't see a way out for us because the regulators want to keep big business happy. They don't give a fuck about us. They want to kick us out. They want to squeeze us out to an AMA field or something like that and get us to do circuits. So that way we're out of their hair so that they can do commercial drones and make lots of money. Uh, Mate, I totally lost my position there. Wow, you guys type quick. Do one of your hilarious characters. Listen, hey, it's Tub Fish Fish. Question: I upgraded my ESCs on KISS V2 from 24 to 32. Sounds very different now. Is this due to the SYN hybrid or the D-Shot 2400? I would say it's more to do with the SYN hybrid because it's a bit more accurate. D-Shot 2400, I don't feel a difference between D-Shot 600 and 2400. And Felix only ever released 2400 basically as a fuck you to the multi-shot guys to make it so much faster. It was basically just it was a jokey option. And now you've got these people that think that they can feel the difference. If you can, great, but I can't. Emacs is super hit or miss. It's either bulletproof or breaks on your second flight. I mean, 15 Emacs Pros, 4 of them combusted. Did they break in flight or was it because of crash damage? Now, the one thing that I've always said is I take anything with a grain of salt where people go, only crashed and didn't crash very hard. You don't know how hard it crashed because you don't know how it hit or what it hit or if there was a rock underneath the soil and so forth. So you really got to take a lot of that with a grain of salt. Yes, there's QC involved and so forth. That could be an issue. But the whole thing is like, oh, this crashed and this didn't. I take a lot of that with a grain of salt. How about RCS mode? Is anybody using voice over a little crowd of people using? I think it really, honestly, it comes down to quality control. Those kinds of motors are cheap because they just sort of copy basic other ideas. I mean, there's nothing really new with motors now out there now, but they don't. And that was thunder. So we've obviously got lightning out there. They don't put much money in that, and they go lowest on QC. So the likelihood of having bad batches is higher. And I think that's probably one of the reasons. And people would prefer to go out and get a name brand one, support the people that are really pushing the industry, and they're more likely to get better products in the long term, and also better customer service. If they do have a bad product, they know they can get a replacement pretty easily. Okay. What's something innovative about the Wolf PDB that we can customize or add our flair to? I'm not exactly showing what you mean. That we can customize or add our flair to. I don't know if Alex Wolf is still in there, but I'm not sure. Like, I'm not into customization. I don't really give a shit. I just want it to work. But I'm not sure if you can do a customized startup screen, or if you can't, whether or not that's on the books. But that would be something that you could do. But I mean, customization, you can change fonts and things like that. So that's some customization options. Who would win in a boxing match, Dutton or Turnbull? I think they'd both fall over within 2 seconds. Why do I keep losing blue lights on 24 amps and no damage? I don't know. I've never lost an LED on any ESC ever. If it's still working and you've got the LEDs blown, it might be that the LED is just shorted, so it's not getting power. I don't know. I've never come across that, so I can't really answer. Are there any plans for a final glide frame? Yeah, as everyone said, my frame is the Reverb. The difference is that I refuse to put my name on these products because when I design a product, I get a group of very talented people together. They have talents in all their own areas to design a product that works really well. And I don't think it's right that I put my name on something that other people have had input in as well. So yeah, other pilots don't have a problem with it. Me, don't like it. Let's hope Chad keeps his pants on. You're assuming that my pants were on to begin with, Jaden. Dangerous FPV. Is that a pic of your glider hanging on the wall behind you? Yes, it is. Yeah. I probably shouldn't take it off because then I'll never get it back on again. So this was me coming back into land over Lake Keepit for the 2012 Gliding Nationals. Good fun, good fun. Oh, and I pulled it out. Good on me. Wow, this is going to be interesting. Can I get it back up again? Sorry, guys. Oh. Yeah, don't break. There we go. You're pretty close with Impulse RC. Do you know if they will be doing Steel Sean PDB V2 for Alien, similar features to Wolf PDB? Chris Quad, I can't answer that distinctly, but I think the answer is no. I don't think they have any plans at this stage. What the future will bring, I don't know. But certainly in the foreseeable future, the Steel PDB is the one recommended for the Alien. How long did it take to fully make the reverb come to fruition? Okay, so from the time that I sat down with Sean at Impulse RC and said, this is what I want to do, are you in? To the time that it was released would have been 8 months, I would say, if I had to guess. So it was early 2017. Very early 2017 was when I decided that I wanted to do something of my own, and we finally finished it. It was released on, it was like Christmas 2017, something around then. So it takes a fair while, and many iterations. I lost count of the number of times that I drove over there and spent the entire day in front of a computer screen with Sean. So Sean is very talented on CAD software. I don't know how to use CAD software. So I went there, we just sat down there in front of the computer and we just went, okay, I want to do this, I want to do this. And then we'd cut it out on the in-house CNC milling machine. I'd take it home, I'd build it that night, I'd go and fly it, test it, and then come back. So it essentially was, we started off with what core principles, what core ideas, what we wanted to achieve. And we sat them down, and I was basically, what I want to do is I want to simplify the frame. I want to make it lighter, but I also want to concentrate and stiffen up and strengthen up areas where I felt that the Alien was weak, but I also want to modernize the frame so it can take stuff. I want to make it compatible so that people can use various different products. They're not locked into certain products. And the final thing was that I wanted to bring the price down. Our goal initially was $80 US, and we managed to get it to $82. So I was actually really happy with that. So once we did that, we sat down in the CAD software, and we started off, like, the first thing I did was I actually got the Alien, and I got some custom design arms made. So I made some Purex arms and so forth. So instead of going to a new frame, I wanted to start with the Alien and change the arm layout of the Alien to see how that would affect the handling and so forth. So that way it would give me a direction on the way that I wanted to go for what was going to be called the reverb. Once that happened, went down there, we realized that we were going to be changing quite a lot. So instead of starting with the CAD drawings of the Alien, we started with the complete blank slate. We worked out what the minimum was, that what we could do for the motor to motor distance, and then made the first prototype. And the first prototype actually had a motor to motor distance of 240 millimeters, which was a lot bigger than what it ended up being. So went out there, and the first couple of prototypes were purely how well does it fly, how practical is it to build, and so forth. So I went out there and I would change it, tweak it for flying and overall sort of like practicality and usage. And then once I got that basic design down pat, we then went and fine-tuned various small areas like the antenna mounts and so forth. We're fine-tuning that, and the final thing was, okay, now we're going to test it for durability. So for about a month, I basically just flew it like I hated it, and tried to break it. Once that happened, then we got a couple more frames built and a couple of guys inside Impulse RC flying them around. And I was able to get input from other guys, what they thought of it. Once those guys were happy with it, that's when we got some prototype frames cut and sent, like, I don't know, 20 or 50 frames out to various pilots that we trust, and said, okay, fly this in secret, fly it hard, give us your feedback. And that's kind of how it worked. But there was probably, I don't know, about a dozen major design revisions from beginning to end. And yeah, but 8-10 months, when you're really putting, rather than just putting some shit together and going, hey, it's a frame, it takes a lot. And it's the little things that make a difference, I find. It's how many of you guys have seen a frame out there or any kind of a product where you buy it, you go, 80% of it's great, but the last 20% sucked, and it's the reason why I won't use it again. That's what I wanted to try and fix, was get rid of that last 20% and make it good. And the problem is you can't make it perfect for everyone. Everyone's got different thoughts. But that last 20%, you can at least go, okay, there's a reason why we did this. There's a reason why we did that, rather than just ignoring it, which I think a lot of companies do in all areas, components, not just frames. We're talking about motors and flight controls and so forth. What do you think about FrSky? They just released 2207 motor, and I'm thinking about buying a set. FrSky is actually one of the bigger companies out there. So FrSky, I believe, did a lot of the design work for early Model T motor stuff. FrSky does a lot of like OEM stuff, so stuff that has different names on it. I remember one trip I went to China. The FrSky sent a whole heap of motors to Fat Shark to test out, and lo and behold, there's all these motors from all these other companies that supposedly are independent. And it's exactly the same motor, it just doesn't have the thing on there. So FrSky is a big company. They make good motors. They just don't have a big brand presence in the FPV market. Does anyone make a 2305 motor? I don't think they do. I don't really think that there's a use for it with what we do, but hey, could be. Oh, FrSky makes a 2305. Okay. Why do I have more range with the Tramp over the Unify V3? That's a very hard one to answer. I couldn't tell you, because there's so many different variances involved in there, in terms of like, it's not just the Tramp, but what antenna are you using? Is there a problem with the pigtail? How have you installed it, and so forth? So even if you've installed it the same, there might be some variances in there. They're both sort of running at about the same power output. I don't know. Maybe there was a fault with the Unify. The Unify still goes is a good VTX in terms of the range that it can do. Hard one to answer. What is your link to Rotor Riot, if any? I don't have any link to Rotor Riot at all. I'm still friends with. I don't know. I don't talk to most of the guys, so I don't know what friends. I don't know what you would call it. I don't want to say, "Oh, we're best buddies, we can talk all the time." I don't have any real issues. I disagree with some of the people in what they do, but I still respect them. Yeah, I'm still very good friends with Tommy and Carlos, and Steele and I still chat and hang out. Like, we don't talk to one another all the time, but I consider him a friend, so I still hang out with those guys. But as far as business and official relationship, I have no relationship to Rotor Riot. I don't know what they're doing. I'm just another viewer like you guys. Proximity question. My throttle and roll are reversed on my new 1-to-1 reverb KISS build from your video. Do I need to change that in my controller? I'm not sure what controller you're using, but I'm guessing you're saying, so what is it? The throttle and roll are going the wrong way. I would say yes, without seeing everything. That would be the first thing I would go to. That you just need to swap the direction of travel in your radio program. Tony, thank you. Wow. um, DKK. I'm not sure what. All these people from all around the world. I'm not knowing these currencies. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I've had some pretty gnarly crashes with reverb. Doesn't want to break. Awesome. Good to hear, my friend. When it comes to the production version, like I broke, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 arms in prototypes, but I was flying to break them, and I didn't stop until I did break them. Production version of the reverb, I've broken one back plate and the back top plate, and I've got some cracks going through this front bottom plate from repeated hard impacts, and I've got a crack in top plate around about here on my. This is my original quad, the very first production version that I've flown. So. How have the sales of the reverb been? Have sales exceeded your expectations? I don't know. I didn't really have expectations, but I've been really pleased. I truly believe that a good product doesn't need to be advertised. Well, you need to tell people about it, but it sells itself. And the reverb sales have been very good. And the only way that I make money in the FPV community at all, apart from the generosity of people in the live feed here, is I've got my Patreon, where my Patreon supporters have been faithfully sending me a little bit of money every month for, and I don't know what it is that I'm doing to keep them happy. So I thank them for that, and the sale of the reverb. And the reverb has been doing a good job of putting a reasonable bit of money in my pocket. So that said, I still have, if I was to put a dollar value on the amount of work that I did to develop the reverb in the 8 months I did it, I still haven't made my money back. So it's all perception. But I could just as easily say, well, I wasn't doing anything anyway when I was developing the reverb, so I was doing it all for free. But yeah, it's actually doing really well, and I'm just glad to see that people are out there are buying it and happy with it. So the sales are going well, but I get the most benefit from people going, I'm flying it and I'm really enjoying it, and especially when they comment on the small things, those little tiny things. Like I would spend a month on this tiny little feature, and they go, I appreciate that because it's really important to me. That makes me feel pretty good. So I didn't need to change that in the radio. Sorry, coming from beta flight. Proximity FPV, I don't know what radio. Yes, it would be in the radio, I think, but I don't know what radio you're using. So if your roll, I think it's roll, if the roll is going backwards and your throttle is going the opposite way, then just reverse them in your radio, whatever radio that is. That should fix it. Paradise FPV said, final gliders, why TrueX though? Okay, so just so you're aware, the reverb is not TrueX. The reverb is halfway between TrueX and the Alien Squished X. So at the time, the whole TrueX hype train was going nuts, and everyone's TrueX, 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 TrueX. And I see a lot of people that go to a new frame that's TrueX, but then they're going, I can feel a difference. I'm going, well, is that the frame or is it TrueX? So what I did was I went, I am very familiar with the Alien. Let's make the Alien a TrueX frame so I can compare apples with apples. The only thing that I've changed is the geometry of the motors, but the rest of the frame is the same. I went out and flew it, and it flew differently. It felt differently. Was it better? No. But it just flew differently. Now, feel is down to a personal opinion. The only improvement that I felt was that pitch was slightly easier to tune because you've got there's more leverage because the motors are further apart. So I realized that Um, Going to TrueX did have its advantages, but it also has its disadvantages. So for starters, your arms are going to be longer, and your props are going to be further in front of you. So now there's going to be more props in shot. And the one key goal that I wanted for the reverb was I wanted to be able to have a 30-degree camera angle and not have any props in shot for the GoPro while it was in super view. So that then made that the body was now going to have to be longer. Because the body was longer, it's going to be weaker. So you're going to have to beef it up and it's going to make it heavier. And I wanted to make it lighter. So there's all these constraints. So I looked at it and I went, okay, so how much can I stretch the pitch axis of the motor geometry until I get to a point where it's in shot? And that's where I came up with that, stretching it to that point, and then went out and tested it. But I also came up with another interesting thing, that while it may have took a little bit more longer to tune pitch, you can still tune it fine. And with today's flight controls, it's not a problem at all. But what I noticed was if you change the ratio of rate and RC rate on pitch versus roll, then you can get the same feeling as has a TrueX or a squished X. So what I'm saying is, let's say like I have 1200 degrees per second of roll and pitch. Roll and pitch both go 1200 degrees per second. What I then do is I go into my KISS setup and I will adjust my roll axis so that the ratio of RC rate and rate is different to pitch, but I'm still rolling at 1200 degrees per second. And what happens is the feel of roll changes to compared to pitch. But what I can do is I can change that feel so that now it feels like a TrueX quad, but it's not. So I realized that it's very good to mechanically get things as good as you can. But you don't want to make it mechanically perfect, which fucks up somewhere else. So I made it mechanically as good as I could without affecting the areas that were also important to me. And then I go into the tuning aspect, and then I tune the rest of it out, and I tune it to feel the way that I want, like a TrueX quad and so forth. So yeah, I don't buy into the whole TrueX hype, because I've found that you can tune it out within reason. So if your motors are really, really close together, you might have a real bad tuning issue, because there's always a hardware limit. But you can make it feel like a TrueX by tuning it to suit. Roll and pitch axis don't have to be identical, and a lot of people make them identical because they just assume that they need to be. Chris Quad said, I'll buy a reverb. I'll get a reverb eventually. It's just not easy getting out of the Alien ecosystem, especially when it flies so good. Dude, if the Alien works for you, stick with it. I mean, if you want to get a new frame, maybe get a reverb. If you want, great, I'll be thankful. But the Alien flies well as well. The thing for me is the reverb. I just wanted to fix some things that I wasn't particularly happy with in the Alien, and there was lots of small little things. So yeah, go get a reverb if you want, but if you're happy with the Alien, stick with it as well. As far as like reversing the channels, for who I can't remember, sorry, I've totally forgotten who it was who had the things reversed. What radio are you using? Because like I've never had to reverse something at all. It sounds to me like maybe you've got like a dodgy program, or you've changed some things in the setup in the radio, which is making you have to do this to new quads, where if the radio was set up well, like default from the beginning, you'd be fine. So I would look at that. It just sounds to me like I can't see in front of it, but it sounds like that there's something wrong with the radio. Oh yeah, Canasty's on here. So like yeah, Tony Britt said, Eric, you should have Chad on as a guest of the Failsafe podcast. Eric, if you want to have me on, more than happy to have you on. We can just talk shit. We can hang shit on one another and have a good old laugh um, and enjoy it. So more than happy to be on there if you want. Like I said, I always wait for the invites. I don't go and push myself on people. So yeah. We don't have guests, though. We hardly invite ourselves. I know the feeling, Eric. So TrueX is for tuning noobs. Well, it's a tiny bit easier. Like you have less bounce back issues because essentially the problem with pitch access, especially on a freestyle quad, not necessarily on a racing quad. On a freestyle quad, you've got all of this weight spread out on the pitch axis. So when it does move, there's more inertia required to move it, more inertia required to stop it. So that means that tuning comes into play more. And you can reach the mechanical limits of how fast the motors can spin up and how much thrust the motors can put out. And that's where the limit lays. It's not impossible to get out of it, but of course, the closer you put these in here, the less leverage that the motors and the props have. So the harder it is for the system to do that. Now you could say, well, why don't we all just fly a racing quad where everything is in the middle and it's a lot easier? For racing, that's fine. But there is one specific reason why I still fly this style of frame, and that's because I want my camera to be up forward and out of the view of the props. I don't want props in shot, and I want to be able to have quite a low camera angle to be able to achieve that. And you can't achieve that when the camera is sitting in the middle of the quad like a racing quad. And on top of that, what happens with a racing quad is you put the battery on the bottom, and then you've got a stack where you've got the camera, and then you've got the GoPro on it. Now you've got all of your weight being spread out that way. So now you need a lot of inertia for both roll and pitch. So in an extreme situation, now you've made it harder to tune pitch and roll. It needs to be an extreme situation, but you get where I'm coming from. So yeah, it's a little bit easier, but let's face it, with today's flight controller stuff, it's a lot easier to tune. Still flying in Rotor Riot 5 when back into the build video. Good to see, man. Good to see it's still going well. Will the TrueX be lighter and can be tuned as an LX? What's an LX? Like a stretched X? Are you talking about? Well, we're talking about grams here, guys. Where is Sharpoo? Sharpoo, Carlos is busy having a life with his lovely girlfriend, working in a job that he loves, and a very important role in DreamWorks, doing his thing. He still flies occasionally. He's just kind of like me, where he just doesn't press play. Soul flyer, I call him. And yeah, he's happy. That's, yeah. What the fuck is a podcast? You can see what you should see what a reverb can do to a watermelon. I can't imagine what the cleanup afterwards. That must be disgusting. And if you don't clean it up, it'll smell. As I said, Chad, I have an alien with a steel PDB, and after a few hard crashes, I'm getting lines in my video. Seems it absorbs a lot of the grunt, causing damage. Is the Wolf PDB non-structural to avoid such? Okay, first of all, what I would suggest you do, Impulse RC has got a Facebook page. They've also got RC Groups forum as well. Contact those guys. They might be able to help you, or might be able to troubleshoot some things. Like I do know some workarounds where some VTXs are a little bit noisy, and changing the ground pad where you put on the PDB can help. So go and check them, ask them. They're very helpful. They might be able to help you out. To answer your question, the Wolf PDB is non-structural. It is not part of the structure, and that was my intention from the beginning, because I don't really like the idea of the alien PDB being part of the structure for a number of reasons. First of all, because of the way that it also has to take hits in that situation, but also because I don't want people to have to buy the PDB. People are buying all-in-one stuff, so I want it to be customizable, where you can add the PDB if you want. You don't have to have the PDB if you want. Why pay for something if you're not going to use it? So that way you can make the frame even more affordable. Final guys, what's your set point weight equivalent in KISS? I think it's like 70 or something like that. What software are you switching to? I didn't realize I was switching. I found that steel PDB is not the most robust. Mine broke after a light crash. Well, I'm not going to comment on light crash because everyone's version of light crash is different. But sorry that you had a bad experience with it. But yeah, the Wolf PDB is not structural, and I did that deliberately. What's your PIDs? Nilik, on my build video, I put some PIDs out there. They may not be relevant because there's new firmwares that have come out for KISS, but I did put my PIDs out there because people always want to know. Camera up front definitely looks so much better in video. Try to GoPro on my Helix, and it being in the center just looks weird. Also, doing tricks physics is a bit different. Yeah, it's a different look. For me, the main thing is being able to have a low camera angle and not having props in shot. They're all different looks. You get a different feel from them. But yeah, that was the reason. That's one of the big reasons why I go to that. And the freestyle quads, you got more room, so and you can protect your components more, because we tend to be pretty rough on our gear. Pulse cells helped me help with a lot of issues with my reverb. I sent them a letter and they were great fixing the problem I was having. Awesome. I'm Skater Dude 88. What were the problems that you were having? Like, did you have some bad components or something like that, or missing components? But yeah, nonetheless, if they helped you out, that's good. Yep, still here, Mark. They're still talking to me. As it did fall 10 meters onto asphalt after hitting power lines. Yeah, it's one of those things, like you don't know. It might have hit in an unusual way on a corner of something where it's gone in and actually hit the PDB. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I've broken arms on what I considered light crashes, and then when I went over, it landed on dirt, and then I pulled the dirt away, and there's a rock underneath there, so who knows. Am I still in SoCal, Chad? No, I am in, I'm back in Australia, in Brisbane area. We have a new Prime Minister. We do. No props in shot on the Helix. Sean designed well. Yes, there's no props in shot because the angle needs to be a bit more extreme. This is one of the things that I was looking at. Chad for PM. Oh God, not that again. Okay, guys, look, I have talked for long enough. Thanks for hanging in there, and thank you everyone for the very generous donations. That was actually quite surprising. I hope that we had a good conversation here, and maybe, I don't know, I got my point across about the whole TBS FrSky thing. And it's good to see everyone smiling, and I just hope that we can get on to actually going out and doing some more flying in a park and enjoying ourselves the way that we should. So appreciate the time, guys, and I'm sure I'll get on here and do another live feed sometime soon. Hopefully my internet will hold out, but it's been good hanging out with you guys, and I will talk to you again sometime soon. So ciao, guys. Chat soon.